savings both in energy, but also in maintenance costs for LEDs. The maintenance is much reduced. So you all were sent in one of the attachments. You have a how-to guide and timeline for municipal purchase of the streetlight systems. It has been, just to note, that process has been made easier and more straightforward by 2015 law that was passed, and also changes that were subsequently made in response to that law by the Public Service Commission. So this document walks you through the process in short order, and if you have any questions about it, I'm very happy to discuss it with you. Just let me know, and we can set up our call. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Great.
Now,
so yes, thank you, Pat. So the documents that Jen Metzger referenced lay out the financial opportunity that's available to municipalities that choose to purchase their streetlights and convert to LED. And one of the other attachments is Chapter 4, the Streetlight Guide, and that's the chapter that focuses on streetlight procurement and financing. And so I'm just going to briefly walk through what's in that chapter. Similar to what Jen indicated, if people have questions, feel free to reach out we can discuss them during this call, and also afterwards, if you reach out to Pat, we can arrange separate phone calls. So Chapter 4, which is still in draft form, as is true for the whole report, lays out a range of procurement strategies and financing approaches, and also has brief, very short case studies of communities that have used this whole range of approaches in procuring and installing LED streetlights throughout the region. And the procurement approaches that are explored in this chapter include a community-managed procurement approach, which is likely to be the lowest cost. And in this scenario, the municipality acts as project manager. Another approach that's explored is single contract or turnkey approach, in which there's a single general contractor that is responsible for the full range of services associated with the conversion project. This approach, of course, has a higher cost because you have an entity in the general contractor role. We also look at any performance contracts which a number of municipalities have used to affect streetlight conversion projects. This has the highest cost. It's a very full service approach, and the project is funded through savings which are guaranteed by the contractor. But the issues that we've discussed a lot among the team members of the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium is that since risk associated with when a municipality will actually enjoy the projected savings for streetlight conversion, risks are extremely low because streetlight billing is determined simply based on the wattage of lights that are installed times the number of burn hours. It's this very straightforward mathematical calculation. So given the fact that the risks are so low, the added cost associated with a guarantee, such you would have in an energy performance contract, is not, in our view, typically worth the additional cost. So we can talk about that more later, but that's later in the chapter. And we also explore the benefits of aggregated procurement and piggybacking, and those are topics that we'll be discussing in detail in this call. That's really the focus of this call. took a look as well at financing approaches that are available for streetlight purchase and conversion projects. And thanks to the low-risk nature of streetlight conversion, there's an increasingly wide range of choices available for municipalities for how to finance this important energy efficiency upgrade. And those include municipal debt in the form of bonding or bond anticipation notes, self-funding using operational or capital funds. Some municipalities have worked with NYPA through energy service contracts and have financed their projects through NYPA. And then there's also another option of tax-exempt municipal leases, which are very low cost, a very flexible option that is one we recommend municipalities consider as well. That wraps up, as I mentioned, with brief case studies of municipalities who have used the whole range of strategies and approaches, both for procuring and financing their streetlight conversion projects. And one of the things that was very notable to me in conversation with these municipalities that either have these projects completed or in process is that they were all really glad that they had moved forward or were moving forward with this project, and they're all satisfied with the approach that they had chosen. So the number of ways to get to the end result of a streetlight conversion project. Key objective of the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium is streamline and accelerate the conversion process for municipalities that choose to purchase their existing streetlights and install LEDs, and also to ensure that municipalities are really maximizing the benefits that are available to them through this upgrade. Central to the goal, to achieving that goal, is our strategy of supporting an aggregated procurement of streetlights with interested municipalities. And New York State, as you know, has been encouraging communities to consider purchasing the streetlights for 10 years now. And benefits of LED technology, including cost savings, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, better light quality, are now at this point really proven. So the goals that remain for municipalities include things such as they're unfamiliar with the technology and the related specifications, and also that municipalities are increasingly short-staffed and resource-constrained. So it's a challenge to take on a brand new procurement effort. So aggregation is really the best way to help municipalities capture and maximize the benefits of streetlight conversion most easily with reduced staff time and reduced expense. And so we're really thrilled to have George Woodbury of LightSmart Consulting, who is one of the foremost experts on LED streetlight conversion, as a project partner. And his involvement really will help ensure that we deliver the best value to municipalities in the form of reduced staff time associated with the procurement effort, and also we think is going to result in more competitive and more transparent bids from vendors who are interested in participating in the RFP process that's going to take place. So last handout, the last attachment that was included with the materials that Pat had sent out is a document that outlines the aggregated procurement support that the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium is going to be providing to interested municipalities. And George is going to be walking us through the details of that, but just briefly, that we determined that an energy performance contract wasn't necessarily the best way to help municipalities maximize the benefits from streetlight conversion with possible price. So the two strategies that are going to be supported through aggregated procurement support are unity managed approach, which, as I mentioned, involves having the municipality play the role of manage the procurement process with very significant support from the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium, and then also the single contract or turnkey approach, in which a single contractor manages the full project, and also with significant support from the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium. And for both of these models, we create a procurement structure that includes municipalities taking the lead in issuing the RFP that will be drafted by George with input from a host of different folks and entities. We anticipate also including a piggyback provision in those RFPs that would enable other municipalities who were not able to participate initially in that procurement effort to piggyback on those contracts. And but very important to note that the municipalities participating upfront in aggregated procurement effort, rather than simply piggybacking later on, are going to be receiving very substantial support from the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium throughout the entire procurement process, and that will not be available to municipalities that later simply piggyback. So the second in the handout details the comparison between those two procurement approaches, turnkey and community managed. There's also a anticipated schedule for the procurement efforts for those two different strategies, and then you'll see there's some likely questions that municipalities might have and answers that we've provided. So, George, with that, do you want to take everybody through the key points associated with those two different aggregated procurement strategies, the turnkey and the community managed, so that communities can begin to think about what might be the best fit for them?
All right.
Yes.
Oh, great. First, let's back up real quick. I've been doing this now for almost 18 years. I wrote the laws in 3 states that allow cities and towns to do this. And I helped over 100 communities with the process of acquiring their streetlights and doing energy efficiency upgrades. So I've been doing this a long time, and I have a lot of experience with it. And I was a former public works director, so I have a good understanding how cities and towns manage their budgets and how all of this impacts on them. So I'm really happy to have an opportunity to work with you all and to help share that experience with you as we go forward. So the fundamental things that you need to do in regards to this whole process, regardless of which approach you take, is you want to do a billing audit of your streetlights, because most often you're being improperly billed and there's an opportunity for you to get refunds. And we have a couple sources that can do that for you. There's no cost associated with it because they get paid through whatever they collect back, so you share the refund with that company. Thing you're going to want to do is to do a physical audit of the asset to make sure you understand what's out there and to get a good sense of its condition and how the lights are distributed in your community, because these lights were put up based on where the poles were, not based on anybody's thoughtful design. And the other thing you're going to find as you do an audit is that there's a lack of consistency I mean, a general consistency, but you'll be going down a street, and every light on that street will be a 70-watt high-pressure sodium, except there'll be a 150 and a 250 and a 100 mixed there in the middle, and there's no apparent reason for it. You'll look around for a park or some, why is this brighter light on the street? And what happened is some citizen complained to their councilman that they were nervous or they were elderly and they couldn't see and they wanted a brighter light in front of their house for security reasons, and the councilman accommodated them in order to get their vote. They may not still be there, but I can assure you the light still is. So these are the things you want to identify. You'll also find you're really looking to cut your budget. There may be an opportunity to get rid of some lights that you really don't need, lights that are doing nothing but lighting up the woods or don't serve a real purpose. You could identify those as part of your project, and that's kind of what Jen and her team did in their community. So you're going to want to do a physical audit of the lights. Once you have a physical audit of the lights, you can make some decisions about adjustments. So the oddball lights, you can decide whether they want to be same as they are, or they should be reduced to be the same as everything else on the street. And there are some guidelines that we can help you with to do that. So you're going to be focusing on classes, roads, and anomalies within your system. It's not complex. The other thing is that we can tell you that you take, for example, a 100-watt mercury vapor lamp and a 50-watt high-pressure sodium lamp. They produce exactly the same amount of light. So there are some lights where you're going to find variances, but they can be all treated as if they were the same for the purposes of a conversion. So essentially what happens out of that audit is you're going to identify that each road, this is the way we're going to light the road. If there are specific locations that need additional attention, this is the way we're going to light those. It allows you to build your design. And then the next step in the process is to select the product that you want to use based on various capabilities. Once you've selected the product's purchased, you acquire the contract to come out and do the installation for you and to handle all of that. And then once the project is complete, then somebody has to collect all the information and give it back to the utility for them to adjust your billing. So the two approaches to this are one in which the town manages it. They engage the services of individual contractors or agencies to do each of the different tasks on the list. And they kind of oversee it and work closely with each of those different subs, if you will, to complete that portion. And throughout this process, you're going to have the MHSC holding your hand and giving you detailed guidance and available for phone calls whenever you need us. It's part of the initial aggregation. So the community managed approach does it that way. Now, if you go with the turnkey, we're going to do that is we're going to list each of the tasks, and we're going to do it like a menu so that you can select what you want on the menu. You may decide that there are certain tasks that you can do in-house or you don't want to bother with, and you don't want to pay for those. So it'll be structured so you have a menu of items, but the difference is you've got an overall contractor who has knowledge and experience in how to do this and how to take the whole process from beginning to end so that it's basically seamless for the town with very little effort or work on the part of the town. That costs money. Those contracts are going to run you 20 to 30% more in terms of total cost to have oversight. And the reason for that is, of course, that the general contractor, the way he makes his money is by marking everything up. So the labor is marked up, the materials are marked up, they get for their time to do the design. They hire an auditor, they mark up the cost of the auditor, and that's how they make their money. Community managed, you don't have any of those markups, and so it's typically, now, if you have a community with 500 or so or less sites, it makes a lot of sense to do this on a community managed because it is quite manageable and it's not that complex, and MHC is going to give you a lot of help. When you're getting into larger numbers, then it begins to make sense to have a turnkey. somebody that you can lean on. The other thing is you can shift some of the risk to that contractor. Whereas when the town manages everything, it's managed. All the risk falls with the town. Now, and the other is the way I'm structuring the pricing, because each town has the ability to choose different types of LED lights. LED lights come in different color temperatures. They come with different distribution patterns and different internal capabilities. For example, you can get a dimming switch that's built right into the light. So if you want to change its output, you go up in a bucket truck and change the dimming switch setting. Controls. You have the warm color temperatures. You have the bluer temperatures. So you have a variety of choices that you can make. Not every two communities are necessarily going to make the same choice. And the thing is that the way the utility bills for these assets varies. For example, National Grid bills on a tiered structure. And for Hudson, is going to be based on actual wattage. So that makes a difference also in how you select the product you're going to use, depending on how you're going to be billed for it. So the way we're going to do the material portion is the contractors that are making an offer are going to base a markup number, not a specific product or not a price for product, but rather how much they're going to mark the product up. For the labor, that's common. Not street light, it doesn't matter who makes it or what its capabilities are. The amount of time and effort to do that is exactly the same. So that pricing would be based on a total bid cost on a per unit basis, so that how much you're going to spend based on the number of lights you have for them to put the lights up. So that's the way this thing is being structured, in an effort to keep costs as low as possible, depending on the choice that you make, and to give each town the ability to result to their particular needs. Now, it was important to note that there's not if 5 communities, say, sign up for the aggregation, one community will take a lead. So they'll issue the RFP. They'll be the one to receive any questions about the RFP. They'll respond to those questions. They'll issue any addendums and so forth. And then once the offers come in, each community that's participating would appoint an individual to participate in the selection process. And there's a scoring evaluation form that I build, used for that purpose. And then the contractor is selected, the preferred contractor is selected, each community then to enter into an individual contract with that contractor. And those contracts can all be different. We're doing one in Rhode Island right now that involves 25 communities, and the spread between those communities when one is working and the last one is doing this could be as much as a year. So you're not locked into a particular time schedule. You don't have to be ready at a particular time. You have the flexibility to go at your own pace. But we want to be careful because over time, the cost of labor goes up, the cost of materials change, technology changes. So, the hope is that if you join in on this, that everybody will have completed the process within a year. That's kind of a summary of some of the details around how all of this works, and I'm in the process right now of building these documents so that we have them for everybody to review and then make them available to the interested people or communities. For any questions?
Thank you, George. All right, so I'm just going to check to see if any have come in through the chat box, and they haven't. So I think we'll take a chance and unmute folks, and I appreciate your patience. I do that. All right, so feel that you're unmuted. We're going to hear everything going on in your office. If we have any questions, this would be a great time to ask away.
This is Rabina from Hillsdale. I have a question, and it's in reference to, we don't have that many street lights. We have like 59 street lights in our district. most of which are on state routes. And my question is, does DOT have anything to say about the type of light we can use on these roads?
Experience with that has been that if the DOT is the one who installed them, they typically put them up following a particular design standard, and they may or may not. If you're owning them now and you're paying for them, they may or may not have some say in how they light the roadway.
I don't actually own them. We pay the maintenance through NICEAG.
Who pays the electric bill?
The town does.
Right. Okay, so under this scenario we're talking about, you would acquire that asset from NICEAG. You'd buy them.
Okay.
And then you own it, and you're responsible. Things I will caution a community against is do not decide on a standard that you're going to meet with your lights. There is no legal requirement to light the roadways. Case history is that if you have a light, you have a responsibility to maintain that light, but you don't have a requirement to have the light. So, for example, in I believe it was East Hampton, the town decided to remove about 50% of their streetlights in order to save money, and they went formal process where they announced this, and then they tagged the lights, and they gave the public an opportunity to comment, and then turned them off. And there was a woman who stepped out from underneath one of these lights that had been turned off and was run over and killed. Her estate sued the town. Instance, because the town had gone through a proper formal public process to make the decision, the court held even if it was a bad decision, they were not liable. On the other hand, you had a case of a young boy who was killed under a light that was out down in Florida. The utility was unable to establish that they had a procedure in place for receiving the calls, for tracking the calls, for knowing when a work order was issued, when the work order was performed, and they wound up paying millions because they couldn't. They had a means of tracking that light. So I think basically what the answer to your question is, if you once you own it, you can put up there whatever you want.
Thank you.
This is Star Hesse. I'm with the Tustin Energy Committee, and I was very interested in the previous question because we also are under NICEAG and rent our street lights from NICEAG. One of the problems that we've run into is NICEAG's charge for purchasing their lights outright. It's just unaffordable. And there was a town, Bedford, New York, that did negotiate successfully with a decent price to buy out their lights. But is there anything that you can do if the utility you're using is making it virtually impossible for you to buy and rent the lights?
Let's talk on NICEAG for a minute. The methodology that they're using is basically replacement cost new, less depreciation. There was a court case in California in which the Superior Court of Marin County ruled against using that as a methodology for calculating the transfer of an asset. I have a very strong case and an opportunity to renegotiate this, and I also think NICEAG has reconsidered. I don't know how long ago you got your numbers, but I have a feeling that there's some room there for negotiations. The thing is, keep in mind is you may say it's unaffordable. Our experience is that acquiring the asset, converting to LEDs, is going to result in approximately a 70% savings. And so, yeah, maybe the payback return on investment is 6 or 7 years, but it's still potentially a worthwhile investment to make, especially if there is no cost to the town in that the savings can pay for everything. And that's one of the things that we help you with, is setting up financing that covers all of those expenses and still returns a positive cash flow for the town at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Right. I'd just like to add to George's comment. I would definitely suggest you take a look at the financing chapter that you were sent from our assessment. But it is have you gotten an estimate from utility of the cost?
We're in the process of doing that bill auditing process, and we haven't yet gone to NYSEG because we don't have that information yet.
Okay. Yes. No, you're doing the right thing by doing the billing audit first, because you want to make sure you're not getting estimates for lights that you shouldn't even be paying for in the first place. But I just want to note that the purchase prices in the NYSEG territory have really varied, and including, I mean, they've been as low as $101 per light in the town of Horseheads, upstate, and which is well below Central Hudson and ONR's costs. But again, what you really focus on is, you know, the relative cost of continuing to rent versus purchasing the system, and there are ways to finance it so that you can see savings in the first year, generally speaking.
Yeah. And just to add to that, municipalities that have sought to purchase their streetlights from NYSEG, in some cases have negotiated that purchase price. So you shouldn't assume that the initial offer that you receive from NYSEG is necessarily the best that you'll be able to do. There's the opportunity to go back.
May I ask just one more question about the NYSEG and purchasing the lights? In our town, the system is set up so that we do not have meters on the lights. It's done on an estimated usage, and whether the lights work or not, you still get charged for that.
Right, that remains true.
For every municipality, that's true.
Right. All street lights, well, generally speaking, the utilities in New York State, their street lights are metered, and will when you purchase them, they will continue to be unmetered, and you're billed solely on how many hours, burn hours there are in utility territory, which I think is around 4,200 in NYSEG territory annually.
How do you get the savings if it's just estimated the same way? Is that the estimate a different calculation?
You're saving because you're using a much lower wattage fixture, and you're being charged, a kilowatt on a kilowatt hour basis, and that takes into account, the wattage of the fixture. When you purchase that system, install your own lights, you're going to have to, you have to help. This will be part of your purchase agreement and operating agreement, but you have to notify the utility of the wattages of lights you're installing, so they know what to bill you.
As an example, the utility will assume that the month of June are 298 dark time hours. Whatever the wattage of the fixture, they multiply that times 298 to determine the kilowatt hours for that particular fixture. Divided, obviously, so to get the kilowatt hours. To go from a 100 watt high pressure sodium to a 25 watt LED, you're going to get a 75% reduction in those costs.
We have another question from Barry Cheney in Village of Warwick. I feel like you muted. Want to ask? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't.
There you go.
You've got.
Oh, did you ask your question, Barry? I can ask
Oh.
it. But
Yeah. I mean, basically, we're going to have to go through 2 audits. I was just wondering the time it takes to do those audits, including procuring for them, and how that fit into the anticipated schedule for aggregated procurement that was provided in the one document. Because looking to, sign up period and releasing the RFP by July 31st, are you going to be able to get numbers in that period of time?
We know the numbers because you're going to get the baseline inventory from the utility. The audit is to verify that, well, you have the billing audit, which you need to do prior to the acquisition, but the fee audit, the physical audit of the asset, can be done after you own the asset. But in terms of how long does it take, Newburyport has 1,519 streetlights. I sent a crew up there, and they finished the field audit in 10 days.
In terms of the billing audit, that can be done in parallel with a lot of other steps in the process. As long as it's done prior to the purchase of the existing asset, you're in good shape.
A follow-up question on another component. You had noted that that the intent would be to use the state bid to procure the equipment. I've seen in numerous circumstances where municipalities were able to get considerably better pricing by going out to a competitive procurement, including the individual who had been selected as the state bidder and gotten lower prices.
Yeah, let me address that. I'm well aware of that, and so the approach that I take is a little bit different. I first identify the product that you want. So let's say that you decide you want to use the Leotech EC1 series for your project and want that figure to have certain capabilities. I go directly to the manufacturer and I negotiate the best price I can with that manufacturer. And then I have already pre-negotiated with the state vendor what his allowed markup is. So I go to the state vendor and say, give me a price, because he can do whatever he wants. I go to him and tell him this is the price and this is how much you're allowed to mark it up for handling the project for us. The advantages that we have is for example, the state vendor that I want people to work through is what's actually in Massachusetts, which you can do, and we have an opinion from the Comptroller General on that. Because I have an existing relationship with the guy, and I just purchased 38,000 streetlights from him, so we'll actually get a little benefit from the fact that I'm doing so much business with these folks. So that's one of the benefits that MAG is hoping to bring to all of our communities.
And George, other than that, you're not involved, just to clarify for everybody, you're not involved in the transaction.
No, I don't make any money on this.
Correct.
No.
Right. You're just bringing your relationships in order to ensure that everybody gets the best value. Exactly.
I'm acting as an agent on behalf of the aggregation group.
Right.
I don't get any, we're getting paid by NYSERDA. That's how we get paid. So.
Okay, we have a call from. We have a question from Bill Edsel. Bill, I do think you are unmuted. Would you like to chime in?
Okay, I'm sorry. It took me a second there. Can you hear me all right?
Sure. And Bill, where are you from?
Highlands.
Great, thanks.
So I haven't done anything yet, and I'm just speculating that I know we have a couple of private trailer parks, private communities, private roads in our community. What are the town's responsibilities if I find some, not all, our inventory or communities that once they go into this, they want to convert some of their lighting? If we're not responsible for them.
So the question is whether entities within your municipality that are not municipal could participate in this aggregation.
Correct. Or do I have a responsibility to help them? As well. Is the town supposed to be providing? I mean, I think we're taxing them. They're paying for the street lighting. Everyone else is. We don't get that granular with our residents. So.
But they own, just to be clear, they own their own streetlights. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know at this point. I would assume they put them up and they might be wired right into their infrastructure. If I have a condominium development,
right,
for instance.
Let's back up for a minute. First, you find that the utility is not going to sell you private lights. So this light is a NICEC light that customer is paying for. It's not going to be part of the asset transfer. Secondly, if it is, for example, I have communities where the street lights for the housing development is part of the total network that the town can buy. The housing development pays for those separately. School departments, for example, can be separate and independent from a town, so they pay for their own street lights, but those could be part of municipal purchase. Those circumstances, what we've done is we've set up agreements between the parties that the town would go ahead and incorporate that, and then they would reimburse the town. So the town now pays the bill for all of it, but they get reimbursed by each of the different entities that are involved. There can be an opportunity for a community to make money on the deal, to mark up things a little bit and a little money because they have to expend staff time and effort to manage the program. I think that's an internal discussion that you all have to have, but I doubt that if there's a condominium association, that those lights would be part of the asset transfer, and the relationship between the condominium association and you would remain the same. They pay for the street lights on the public roadway that benefit them when they're driving around.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
I have one other question. We have Bear Mountain and West Point bordering our community. Would they qualify as municipalities to work with?
Tax entities? Do they issue taxes?
No, one's a state entities, one's a federal.
Yeah, but that's my alma mater. Hudson High School. Whoop-hoo, we used to call it. Point.
While we're thinking about other possible questions, I just want to note that we have Nicholas on the call. Nicholas, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Nicholas and Carla Castillo and Europa are with the Hudson Valley Regional Council. They are additional resources to you because NYSERDA has a kind of sister effort to what we're doing, which is Clean Energy Communities. And under that program, the team at Hudson Valley Regional Council is helping communities achieve so-called high-impact actions, and the state has named 10 of them that they are hoping municipalities will pursue. And adaptive LED streetlights one of those high-impact actions, and there are financial incentives for the early adopters of these actions. So Nicholas, no doubt, has reached out to you already, but I just want to assure you that we are working closely with them and that these things can operate in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
So shall we talk about next steps, or we have talked about next steps, but shall we just recap that these RFPs, draft RFPs, will be undergoing review by the state of New York, and then we will make them available. We'll be doing an outreach campaign, hopefully in the spring, to bring everyone on board. And to reiterate what George has said, there is no obligation to proceed further once it comes your turn, and if something has changed for you, you're not in a legally binding agreement, but you would be part of the initial application and enjoy the benefits of it. That's what you'd be signing up for. We have lots of materials at this point that we are posting every day to our website, which is nystreetlights.org. And I'm also happy to, of course, email things around. We're also doing a mailing, a U.S. mailing that'll go out detailing all of these efforts and where to find them on our website. Any final thoughts? Any final questions? If not, we'll keep in touch with you, and we will provide you with our next fall webinar. But in the meantime, by all means, do contact us. We'd be happy to set up a call with you individually to talk about your town situation. And thank you very much for coming.
Could I just ask one more quick question? Could you just go over what you said about the current draft of the RFPs? When those are issued, if our town or community decides to participate in this aggregation, point, we would not be considered initially joining, so we wouldn't be getting any of the assistance benefits. Is that correct?
Well, if you come on later, the practical reality is we may not be, in the picture at that time. We're funded through mid-2018.
Okay, you're saying that these RFPs that may be sent out, if we join that now, we would be considered part of the group that's coming in at the beginning?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
The timeline that is laid out in the procurement handout currently indicates that municipalities would have until the end of May to sign on to the turnkey RFP, or the end of June to sign on for the community managed process. So there still is time for plenty of review and discussion within your municipality.
Thank you.
Now, George did mention and encourage everyone to get a billing audit and a field inventory. We have materials related to those, and I will be sending them out to get a jump on that. Great resources. Anything else? Right. Thank you, everyone. Reach out if you'd like. Thank you for coming to the call.
Thank you.
Thank you.